Show us your evidence. Hi, welcome back to this channel. My name is Mandy Magnan. I'm an actress, writer, producer, director in Toronto, movie reviewer, and your YouTube commentator for everything it ends with never. Today, in this video specifically, what we're going to be talking about is Sony, Wayfarer parties, Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds. The day of unsealing. Let's get into it. Grab your emotional support lip gloss. You are in frame with Mandy Magnan. Where to start? Well, first, how are you? How is your day going? I hope you're having a great day. There is a lot of information coming out yesterday and today, and we're going to get into all of it. But it has to be broken down in some sections, okay? So today, specifically, I just want to talk about the key players, and then I'm going to do a separate video that has to do with the PR people and those kind of people, that being Jed Wallace, Catherine Case, Brianna Butler-Kozlow. But in this video, we're going to talk about Sony. They are clocking Blake Lively. We have WME has entered the chat, Wayfarer, and Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. You know, let's talk about it. First, I want to show you... First, I want to show you the court listener and show you the docket of everything. And then we're going to get into Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, or the Wayfarer people's responses. And then we'll talk a little bit about WME and Sony. I'm going to try to pack this all into this 1 hour episode. So without any further ado, let's bring up court listener. Well, it was a doozy of a night and a something of this morning. I can't think of a metaphor to say about that, okay? But this is what's going on, okay, just from today. So the first person to file was last night. It was ISABELA FERRER. We already went over that on the last video. If you want to watch it and want to see what she has to say, check it out. I'll put it in the description. But basically what she's saying is, I want to keep everything sealed, and I don't want my conversation about the sex scene in a sexual harassment claim, which Blake Lively herself brought ISABELA FERRER and Young Lily into, basically just says she doesn't want that shown, and she never asked to be a part of this. It was Wayfarer that brought her in. I'm already feeling sassy, okay? So don't get me started on that whole thing again, okay? So we have ISABELA FERRER. She was the first. Wayfarer has entered the docket. Then we have, of course, Betty B. Holdings on behalf of Blake Lively. Betty B. Holdings are asking, again, to have a bunch of stuff unsealed. We'll go over that in another video, or if I have time in this video, but that's not the main importance. Then we have also Joel R. Glover, who is the attorney for Mr. Jed Wallace, who is now a non-party. And he likes to bring that up, I'll tell you. I am a non-party. So he's dropped everything that he wants to stay redacted or sealed, and he's offered that to the court. And then we have Family Hive LLC, Blake Lively's other business entity. They have entered the chat. Jones Works, of course, Stephanie motherfucking Jones had something to say. Obviously, she, we'll get to her as well when we talk about the whole PR side of things. Then we have the Wayfarer. They've come into the chat. Then we have the PR people, the non-parties, Catherine Case, Brianna Butler-Kozlow. They've come in and they've dropped a whole bunch of other redacted text messages. Then we have who else? Then we have Blake Lively. She's filed a couple of things. We're going to go over it. One is just a one-page thing asking for sealing, and then we'll talk about her main document. Okay, so she's entered the chat. It's going to be quite interesting to go over her letter, of course, filed by Michael J. Gottlieb, also the lawyers of Drake. Anyway, because, they're weird lawsuits. Then we have here Alyssa Samplin. That was put into the court. It looks like that is still sealed. Then we have a document filed by WME themselves with some exhibits, and we're definitely going to talk about that in this video. I haven't looked at them yet, but I cannot wait. Okay, WME. And then we get into today, and today we got a letter and some exhibits that were served to the Wayfarer parties, as well as, I believe Sony was somewhere in there anyway. But you could see everything just filed within the last 24 hours. I mean, it is a lot, and nothing had been filed in this docket since December 26th. So it was quite a little bit of a file dump, and I am ready to get into it. Now, I already went on a little rant about Miss Blake Lively and how absolute crazy this is, and the sheer audacity that she must have or forgot in 2025. I mean, where is it? Because all year long, talking to us about concrete evidence, voluminous amounts of evidence to back up her sexual harassment and to prove her case, and all these witnesses and all these depositions and all of these people, right? They're all going to corroborate sexual harassment as well as the retaliation. And now, after being given damn near 2 months of an extension, still she wants everything sealed as the plaintiff in her own case? Something interesting that I clocked is there weren't a lot of people on her side that asked for things to be sealed. I mean, ISABELA FERRER, Colleen Hoover didn't come in, Brandon Sklenar, her agent, Leslie Sloan. I would have guessed that for sure. Jenny Slate, all of these other people, where are they? They're fine, right? Showing and saying what actually happened. If there's something that happened, and you have witnesses, and you have evidence, and you have proof of said thing happening, baby girl, now's the time. It has been long due. Okay, what did you think? You were just going to be able to streamline this entire process without what? Saying your side of the story? Without saying what happened to you? It's bananas. First, let's just get into it because we ain't got no minutes to spare, okay? We're going into the filings. First one from Wayfarer. Shocking. They don't want anything. They don't want anything sealed. Let's talk about it. This is the Wayfarer's first motion for entry for unsealing or sealing. This is what it says, and it's written by Shapiro. Absolutely love it, okay? This is it. The Wayfarer parties, Wayfarer Studios, Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, Steve Saritz, It Ends With Us, Jennifer Abel, Melissa Nathan, and Tag respectfully move to seal certain exhibits and related textual references in the summary judgment and spoliation submissions. Given the volume of material, Wayfarer parties will provide highlighted versions of the documents at issue to the court via email. In view of the strong presumption against sealing, again, in view of the strong presumption against sealing summary judgment materials and sanction motions, the Wayfarer parties have limited their sealing requests to certain narrowly tailored categories, the bulk of which Lively and Jones Works do not object to. That phrase is going to come up a lot, the whole narrowly tailored thing. The judge is very strict. I mean, the law is very strict at this point for spoliation and summary judgment materials of what could be sealed or unsealed, okay? It's only supposed to be PII, personal identifying material, addresses, phone numbers, emails, etc., medical information, finances, and or trade secrets. That's it. Okay? We continue. So the first sealing they would like is personal identifying information. All parties agree that documents should be redacted to the extent they reveal personal identifying information, including cell phone numbers, email addresses, home addresses, or financial accounts. Seems fair. Non-party information. The Wayfarer parties seek to redact documents to the extent they disclose the identity of non-party clients of Tag, Jennifer Abel, Jones Works, or work done on those clients' behalf. Perfect. Nobody wants to know what was done outside of this case. Okay? Period. This court has already held that the specific identity of clients and prospective clients who have used public relations services is sufficiently sensitive to warrant continued sealing. The materials the Wayfarer parties seek to seal would disclose work done for non-parties that is subject to the confidentiality agreements with those clients. It is highly sensitive and wholly irrelevant to anything at issue in these motions and was included only coincidentally in documents discussing other topics. In particular, unlike the Wallace parties, there is no argument that the types of work Abel and Nathan do for other clients has any relevance here, as no one is disputing that Abel and Nathan can and do provide PR services. JonesWorks does not object to these requests and indeed seeks to seal substantially similar information concerning other JonesWorks clients. Okay, Stephanie motherfucking Jones. Okay, that's good because, yeah, of course you don't want your clients, your client list, work that you did for them, etc. It has no bearing on this case and the matters on this case. We understand that Lively may object. Oh, no. No way. Oh, my gosh. Lively is going to object? Classic. We understand that Lively may object to some of these proposed redactions because the fact that some of these clients have worked with Tag or Nathan have been publicly disclosed in the media. However, the timing and nature of that work has not. Moreover, we understand that Lively does not intend to object to any of the client-related redactions concerning the JonesWorks clients. Apparently, recognizing that such information is typically sealed. But the principle of client privacy does not apply only to parties Lively wishes to shield. Nathan, Abel, and Tag's clients are entitled to the same protections. Just eat her alive. At this point, I feel like this was one of the most brilliant moves of Wayfarer. First of all, dropping the motion on the pleadings by Jen Abel, summary judgment, Jen Abel, then Wayfarer came along with it. And then they have barely fought Lively on anything. And it's like, now it's ready. Checkmate, okay? Because they probably knew that she was going to ask for everything to remain under seal. And it's just like, guilty, girl. They have been playing the long game all year. This paragraph eats her alive. I wish I could tell people off in these kind of ways, the most proper and professional. Moreover, we understand that Lively does not intend to object to any of the client-related redactions concerning the JonesWorks clients, apparently recognizing that such information is typically sealed. But the principle of client privacy does not only apply to parties Lively wishes to shield. Nathan, Abel, and Tag's clients are entitled to the same protections. Yeah, they are. In addition, the Wayfarer parties seek to redact a document to the extent that it discloses the identity of an individual who was subject to an unrelated workplace complaint at Wayfarer. Courts have generally characterized personal files as confidential and found it appropriate to enter protective orders governing their use in litigation because of the inherent potential for harm or embarrassment in the information they contain is revealed. And I believe this has to do with the older gentleman who applied for one of the jobs as crew and he didn't get the job, and then he went to SAG and filed complaints saying that it was because of ageism. I believe that's what it was, and that's what they're talking about here. Disclosure of personal files, which can include confidential information, is generally subjective to a protective order. Such protections are especially appropriate here where the individual in question has nothing to do with this litigation, much less the pending motions. This individual has not been identified by any party as a witness and has not been deposed, and the disclosure of complaints against that person could cause substantial personal and professional harm. JonesWorks does not object. We understand Lively may object. Finally, the Wayfarer parties seek to redact a document to the extent that it discloses the identity and contact information of non-parties who have offered unrelated hotel services to defendants. Given the public scrutiny of this case, the privacy of those irrelevant parties should be protected. Lively and JonesWorks do not object to that request. Non-public medical information. In the November 26th order, this court observed that medical records and details regarding healthcare are also typically considered sufficiently sensitive to merit sealing. The Wayfarer parties accordingly seek to redact certain parties' personal and irrelevant medical information. Lively and Jonesworks do not object to this request. Non-public business and financial information. In the November 26th order, this court observed that undisclosed financial information such as compensation, as well as confidential commercial information, are both also proper subjects for sealing where the information has no bearing on any issue in this case and would cause substantial harm to a party or non-party's competitive business. Consistent with those principles, the Wayfarer parties seek to redact the financial details of the film's profits, the daily rate of an actor on set, and some aspects of Liner Freeman's retainer agreement. Each of these items could be valuable to a competitor or negotiating counterparty, and none has any bearing on anything at issue in the litigation or the pending motions. Lively and Jonesworks do not object to these requests. The Wayfarer parties also seek to redact information concerning the specific financial amounts Abels's new public relation firm, RWA Communications, charged Wayfarer in October of 2024 for services not at issue herein, and the generic terms of tag statements of work. This information too is competitively sensitive and irrelevant to the pending motion. Jonesworks does not object. However, we understand Lively may do so. Lively is going to argue and oppose them, okay, redacting financial information. This is very important, okay, because, the hypocrisy of it all. The Wayfarer parties also seek to redact references to other unrelated Wayfarer projects. In addition to being competitively sensitive, such information has no relationship to the subject matter of the case whatsoever and can therefore have no bearing on the motion at hand. Lively and Jonesworks do not object to this request. Wholly irrelevant personal inflammatory information. As the court stated in November 26th, notwithstanding the strong presumption of public access to dispositive motions, materials that evidently have no relevance to the judicial function may be sealed. And then they have a couple of things that they would like sealed there. The Wayfarer parties accordingly seek to seal personal communications about a tag employee and her family, and non-party messages that could be misinterpreted as inflammatory insofar as it plays into harmful stereotypes, as well as a log of Miss Abels's phone calls. Lively and Jonesworks do not object to these requests. Finally, the Wayfarer parties propose to remove Wayfarer Exhibit 163 from the docket. This 400-plus page document includes a considerable amount of personal information and was attached to the opening motion in error. It was replaced with a corrected exhibit. And then that is from Alexandra Shapiro. And now, just before we get into Miss Blake Lively's little thing, I just think it's important to really go over again in detail, but quickly, the judge's order on November 26th. I highlighted just a few key points so that while we're going through these, we can tell if the sealing or unsealing is warranted. And maybe, in our expertise, as you may, of just following this case, start to think of whether or not, this is all kind of fluffery or if it is warranted. So here it does say a preliminary motion to seal is intended to give the individuals who produce the materials in discovery 1 week to move for continued sealing of the documents. As the court has previously explained, there is a presumption of immediate public access to judicial documents under both the common law and the First Amendment, and this presumption is at its peak in the context of dispositive motions, including motions for sanctions. Where the presumption is at its peak, continued sealing of the documents may be justified only with specific on-the-record findings that sealing is necessary to preserve higher values, and only if the sealing order is narrowly tailored to achieve that aim. One of these higher values is protecting significant and substantial privacy interests, such as the physical safety of litigants, witnesses, or third parties. Among the type of information that courts frequently find sufficiently sensitive to overcome even a strong presumption of public access are medical records and details regarding healthcare. undisclosed financial information such as compensation, undisclosed, and confidential commercial information and trade secrets. So there we have it. PII, health information, undisclosed finances, and trade secrets. And he does say at the very bottom of this document, y'all, he says, Judge Lyman says, in the future, and particularly with respect to upcoming sealing motions regarding the Wayfarer party's motion for summary judgment, the court requests that parties and non-parties explain how any proposed redactions are consistent with this memorandum in order. This was November 26th, y'all. This was all supposed to be wrapped up December 3rd, I believe, or December 5th or something, a month ago, regardless of the beginning of December. Now, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to pull up Blake Lively's. I haven't read through the whole thing. I kind of breezed through a couple of things last night that I saw just online right before I went to bed. Haven't read the entire thing yet, but it's still pretty short. I think it's about 3 or 4 pages. Let's see. Let's see what she would like to remain sealed because of, again, PII, personal identifying information, health and medical records, trade secrets, and undisclosed compensation. Okay, so let's read this bad boy together. It's 4 pages. Let's see if Blake Lively would like to seal or unseal. Let's see if we'll even get maybe finally her deposition. I don't know. That would be a start, or any of this concrete evidence that she's been talking about all year. On behalf of Blake Lively, we write pursuant to this court's December 19th order and Rule 1 of Attachment A to your Honor's individual rules to respectfully request the unsealing of the record and documents filed under seal in connection with Miss Lively and Mr. Reynolds' the Lively party's motion for sanctions pursuant to Rule 11, the Wayfarer defendant's motion for summary judgment, and Miss Lively's opposition to the motion for summary judgment, except with respect to narrow information that was designated confidential and or attorney eyes only by parties or third parties pursuant to the operative protective order. Oh, okay. So other than what was already designated attorney eyes only, you should be Gucci, right? It should be all good. Let's see. Specifically, Miss Lively requests that the court continue to seal specified information from Exhibits A, F, and I to the declaration of Brian Freeman in support of the Wayfarer defendant's opposition to the Lively party's motion for leave to supplement motion for sanctions. Exhibits 42, 45, 47, 48, 53, 87, 95, 102, 133 to 130. Okay, so all of those. Okay, all of those from Alexandra Shapiro in support of the motion for summary judgment. A bunch of other exhibits from Michael Gottlieb in support of her opposition to the motion of summary judgment. Miss Lively respectfully requests that the materials remain under seal because they implicate third parties' privacy interests and or contain non-disclosed financial and commercial information. All of those, the complete documents, all of those exhibits have those 2 things. Right, okay. We continue. Privacy interests of third parties. Courts in this circuit routinely seal documents to protect the privacy interests of third parties. Yes, we know that. Courts have long declined to allow public access simply to cater to a morbid craving for that which is sensational and impure. Is that what she's talking to us? Is that what she's saying to us? That we have a craving? Anyway, okay. Miss Lively's narrowly tailored request seek to seal limited confidential communications strictly between third parties. Then there's a whole bunch of other exhibits. Limited communications with or about third parties who lack any substantial connection to it ends with us and or this litigation. Way more exhibits. And testimony disclosing a third party's medical condition. Yeah, that's fine. That one part where it discloses the medical information, that one part could be redacted. The rest of it has to be unsealed, sweetheart. This is crazy. The documents in each of these categories implicate the privacy interests of third parties and should therefore be sealed. First, of the 940 exhibits, as she puts in bold, okay? First, you don't have to worry about all those 940 exhibits, girl. You just got to worry about your stuff, okay? Other people's depositions, all the Wayfarer stuff has nothing to do with you. So don't start fluffing it up now like, oh my God, 940 exhibits. Stop it. Stop it right now. First, of the 940 exhibits subject to the parties' pending motions, Ms. Lively requests that only 8 communications between third parties remain under seal in their entirety. That's weird because this list up here and this list up here and this list up here that you gave is way more than 8 exhibits. Okay, so, okay, oh my gosh, whatever, Blake Lively, whatever. So she wants 8 communications between third parties remain under seal in their entirety, and that 3 third-party communications be unsealed, except for Miss Lively's proposed limited redactions. Private communications between third-party Ryan Reynolds and his talent agents are appropriately subject to sealing to protect third-party privacy interests. Mr. Reynolds was named as a defendant in the Wayfarer defendant's now dismissed litigation, but he is neither a party to this litigation or has he substantially participated in it. Now, girl, we all know you is lying. He literally, one of these dispositive motions is from Ryan Reynolds himself for sanctions on Steve Sarrett and Jennifer Abel. So what are you talking about? He's not in this litigation. One of these dispositive motions is from fucking Ryan Reynolds. Ugh, I'm sorry. Cursed. Indeed, it continues. Indeed, the Wayfarer defendants did not even depose Mr. Reynolds in this litigation, even though he offered to make himself available. But yet he wasn't available because when you were being deposed, girl, this man was all over North America trying to sell his new John Candy documentary. Why would they depose him knowing that he's a liar? Knowing that you guys started this with a fake lawsuit abusing the courts and lying with Van Zandt? Why would they depose your husband knowing he was going to lie? Hello, this is crazy. Like, what? But, oh yeah, he made himself available. He did not ask to be involved in this law. Oh, he did not ask to be involved in this lawsuit, and disclosure of his communications would do nothing more than cater to the craving for that which is sensational, material to which courts have long declined to allow public access. The communications should be sealed in their entirety. Then she brings up a case with Netflix. Directing sealing of third parties' name and the substance of her communications. Certain communications between crew members also implicate third-party privacy interests, and Miss Lively requests continued sealing on that basis. Second, Miss Lively seeks to shield from disclosure the names and identifying information of third parties with or about whom she has communicated who have not been subject to discovery in this action, have little to no connection to the film, and or may lack any substantial involvement in the litigation. And then look at all of those exhibits. But wait a second, because didn't y'all leak all of Wayfarer's text messages, including the ones with Rainn Wilson, and had his name up there, Adam Munchen's name up there? You didn't care no which way when it was the Wayfarer's text messages and emails being on the docket. But now you want it, Blake? You are the most toxic, darkest soul I have ever, ew, ew, ew. Release of the information subject to Miss Lively's limited redactions may increase the risk of exposure, and in the case of at least one third party, continued exposure to harassment in the press and or social media, and poses security, safety, and privacy risks. Why is that? Because y'all are lying. It's fine, redact their names, but we want the files. If you want to redact these people, Blake, oh my gosh, go ahead. Doesn't seem like anyone is backing you anymore, because nobody wants their name attached to you, because this whole little plan that y'all contrived is blowing up right in your faces. Protecting the physical safety of third parties is a higher value that warrants continued sealing. Sealing is also appropriate because most of the implicated third parties are actors who were considered for but not cast in the film. Oh, wait a second. Are we talking about Bradley Cooper here? Or who are we talking about? Who is you talking about, Blake Lively? Now you're just piquing everyone's interest even more. Third, Miss Lively seeks partial sealing of deposition testimony referencing a third party's medical information. The interest in shielding health information from public disclosure routinely outweighs the presumption of judicial access. That one I agree with. We don't need medical records. You've already withdrew your two biggest clauses for emotional distress because you don't want to show your medical records. Nobody wants medical records, okay? Especially from third parties. But we want your text messages. We want your communications. We want your freaking depositions. Non-disclosed financial and commercial information. As this court has recognized, non-disclosed financial information, including financial information such as compensation, is sufficiently sensitive to overcome the presumption of public access. This is precisely the type of information that Miss Lively seeks to maintain fully under seal and partially under seal in the other one. Okay, Miss Lively seeks to maintain under seal detailed financials concerning the film's profits, including but not limited residuals, distribution fees, and trade dues as applicable. Related payments issued to Miss Lively, right, because she got some kickback. She made it in her contract that if this movie does really good, she still gets kickback on top of her already $2 million that she was being paid. Okay? Related payment issues to Miss Lively, the form of Miss Lively's earned compensation on a separate film, and the typical payment rates of a non-party crew member disclosed in the context of confidential job negotiations. Disclosure of such financial information, which has no bearing on the pending motions, risk imposing financial, business, and commercial harm to Miss Lively and other non-parties of this litigation. Miss Lively therefore requests that the court maintain P1 motion summary judgment exhibits 81 to 85 fully under seal and partially seal 33 and 35. Yeah. The court has observed that confidential commercial information is likewise sufficiently sensitive to shield from public disclosure. In addition to reflecting non-disclosed financial information, WME LLC commission rate, disclosure of WME's confidential business information such as commission rates it negotiates with high-profile clients such as Miss Lively, risk harming the non-party's agency competitive standing. Miss Lively thus requests that the court maintain seal under that. Okay, cool. Let's see what some of these footnotes say. To facilitate the public's prompt access of documents that are not subject to this or any other motion for continued sealing, Miss Lively and Jones Works have agreed to jointly file all uncontested exhibits on the docket by January 16th. Looks like Jones Works is very busy in this case. As set forth herein, third party Mr. Reynolds respectfully joins Miss Lively's limited request to partially seal, and then there's a whole bunch of dockets there. Unless otherwise stated herein, Miss Lively seeks permission to redact only limited portions of these materials, as indicated by yellow highlighting in exhibits. The Wayfarer defendants do not oppose and thus concede each of Miss Lively's redactions to the motion for summary judgment. They do not oppose the majority of redactions. Miss Lively's narrow redactions do not deprive the Wayfarer defendants of a fair opportunity to respond to the subject matter of the underlying communications, which also weighs in favor of sealing. At this time, the Wayfarer defendants do not oppose Ms. Lively's proposed redactions. The Wayfarer defendants do not oppose and therefore consent to sealing. I mean, let us know, girl. Let us know that the Wayfarer people are cool with it. It's so wild. And now, y'all, I don't know what Sony is about to say, but this is the longest one. It's 8 pages. It's double the length of Blake Lively's. It's double the length of Wayfarer. Here, let's get into it. And this is the Ilisa I was talking about at the beginning of the video. This is her. This is Sony, okay? We write on behalf of non-party Sony Pictures pursuant to Rule 4B of Attachment A to the court's individual rules to request that the court maintain under seal certain portions of documents filed in support of 1. The Wayfarer party's motion for summary judgment, 2. Plaintiff Blake Lively's opposition to the Wayfarer party's motion for summary judgment, 3. The Wayfarer party's opposition to Plaintiff Blake Lively's motion for spoliation sanctions, and third party Plaintiff Abel's opposition to third party defendant Jonesworks' motion for spoliation. Dang. The SPE has carefully evaluated the sealed documents and requests that the court seal a very modest amount of SPE material filed in connection with the aforementioned filings, narrowly tailored portions of deposition testimony, texts, and emails of SPE employees, highly sensitive terms of a commercial agreement between an SPE affiliate and certain of the Wayfarer parties, and 3. Personal phone numbers of SPE employees, collectively the SPE material. That sounds fine. I mean, makes sense. No presumption of public access attaches to the SPE material because none of it is relevant to this court's judicial function in considering the summary judgment and sanction motions with which the material was filed. Sony's request for sealing should be granted for this reason alone. At most, the material plays a negligible role in the court's exercise of its judicial function. Any presumption of access that could attach to the material, therefore, is low and easily outweighed by 1. The privacy interests of Sony's employees in the testimony, text, and emails at issue, 2. Sony's commercial interest in protecting the highly sensitive financial terms of its production, financing, and distribution agreements. Given the, at best, negligible relevance of the Sony material to the filings before the court, any opposition to this sealing request would not appear directed at advancing this case, but rather at harassing or embarrassing non-parties to gratify private spite or promote public scandal on matters irrelevant to the issues before this court. The court should grant Sony's sealing request in full. And it's here. So you have in full the declaration of Alexandra Shapiro. So there's Exhibit 12. It's not relevant to the performance of the function. You have some other things from Shapiro, the memorandum of law. There's a few things in there. There's the stuff. Oh, here we go. So they're just saying that it's not relevant whatsoever. Then you have Lively's opposition to the defendants. They're saying that there's a counter statement in there, 56.1. It's not relevant. The Michael Gottlieb, there's just a whole bunch of stuff that just is not relevant. Then they have Jonesworks as well. There's some stuff there that they just don't want out, okay? It's not relevant. The court should permanently seal the Sony Pictures Entertainment material. The mere filing of a paper or document with the court is insufficient to render that paper a judicial document subject to the right of public access. Instead, the item filed must be relevant to the performance of the judicial function in order for it to be designated a judicial document. None of the Sony Picture Entertainment material, a narrowly tailored subset of Sony-produced information designated as attorney eyes only under the protective order, is relevant to the performance of this court's function. For the reasons explained below, the Sony Picture Entertainment material should play no role in this court's exercise of its Article 3 duties in resolving the motion for summary judgment and sanctions with which the Sony Picture material was filed. Even if it did, any role would be negligible with a low presumption of access outweighed by the privacy interests of non-party individuals and employees. So then they get into each and every single one in detail. Okay, Sony not playing. Okay, not playing around. OMG. They're saying when the declaration of Shapiro, this is sensitive deposition testimony of a Sony Pictures employee and is not cited at any party's filings. The testimony seeks to redact on page 296 was included in the Wayfarer party's motion for summary judgment only because it exists on the same page as other testimony of the Wayfarer party cited, and that should just be permanently sealed because it didn't have anything to do with what they were actually talking about. It just happens to be on the same page. In the Wayfarer Rule 56.1 statement, there is an Exhibit 23 as a co-financing, co-production, and distribution agreement between Sony Pictures Entertainment affiliate Columbia Pictures Industries and certain of the Wayfarer parties, part of which is quoted in the Wayfarer party's Memorandum of Law at page 47. The exhibit contains extremely sensitive financial and distribution terms that Sony Picture Entertainment treats as strictly confidential to preserve its competitive position in the film and television industry. That obviously should be under seal. No one needs to see the negotiations and the contracts and stuff of the film. Then they're also asking for anything that has to do with, Justin Baldoni's agreements, his financing, the production, the distribution agreements, that remain confidential, commercial information, and trade secrets. Absolutely. I absolutely agree. Then he gets into some things about Jed Wallace and street relations. The Wayfarer parties consent to the sealing of the document and understand that Wayfarer will also be moving to seal that same document. And that is a document that was filed by the Wayfarer people, but it actually has, again, confidential business information with street relations. So very interesting that Sony is standing by Jed Wallace and street relations here to have that remain under seal. They're also asking for some text messages to remain under seal. Exhibit 120 is a text message thread in which a Sony representative has proposed a targeted redaction over a single text that is not relied upon in the Wayfarer party's summary judgment motion. The document is cited in the Wayfarer party's Rule 56.1 statement, but in support of a proposition unrelated to the specific message that this employee seeks to redact. Exhibit 72 also is a text message thread in which a Sony employee has proposed targeted redactions over text that the Wayfarer parties again do not rely upon for their motion. The document is cited in the Wayfarer party's Rule 56.1 statement, but in support of a proposition unrelated to the specific message. They also want to redact some email chains that, of course, they're in there, but not relied upon by the Wayfarer people, as well as a text and email chain in that same motion because they do not concern matters on which a party is relying in connection with the underlying motion. The redacted material cannot possibly have any relevance to this proceeding, they say. Then we have more things from the Shapiro declaration, as well as the Rule 56.1 statement, and then Lively's counter Rule 56.1 statement, where it says exhibits 196, 197, and 198 are text and email threads cited in paragraph 288 of the party's 56.1 statements. That paragraph is in turn cited once in the background section of Wayfarer's Memorandum of Law. The information is not material to resolution of the summary judgment motion and reflects private emails from non-party employees who were not even deposed in this case and that lack foundation, context, and are hearsay. Very interesting, because didn't we just read in Blake Lively's thing how she's like, oh, they want to use Ryan Reynolds' text messages, but he wasn't even deposed. Yeah, girl, you're doing the same thing. Clock it. The privacy interests of those third-party employees who have had no opportunity to explain the inadmissible statements on immaterial matters included only for background justify permanent sealing on the material underlying the narrowly tailored redactions applied to those documents. The Garofalo declaration, as well as the defendant's response to Lively's motions for sanctions. There's also a Garofalo declaration again, and third-party plaintiff Abels' opposition to Jones Works' LLC motion for sanctions. These exhibits, they would like the same. Their text messages thread with employees from Sony and they have targeted redactions over the two texts that they say. One word from one text is quoted in one sentence in the background section of the defendant's response to Lively's motion for spoliation sanctions, and the third party plaintiff's Abel's opposition, and the other text is not quoted at all. The background sentence, which is identical in both memoranda, has no bearing on the two underlying motions for spoliation sanctions or the response thereto. The texts relate to an inflammatory and irrelevant statement from a non-party employee who was not deposed in this case, with no opportunity to explain it. The texts have no foundation, lack context, and are inadmissible, permitting them to be unsealed, especially where it has no bearing on the court's exercise of the judicial function, would improperly antagonize or harass innocent third-party employees with potentially embarrassing conduct. The text at issue and the quotes of the text in the background section of the opposition papers should permanently be sealed. So even Sony's saying here that, the responses, because they were quoted originally, and the responses, again, they have no foundation, they lack context, and are inadmissible. You have a declaration from Shapiro. This is an email, and it just includes personal phone numbers and non-party employees. So just redact the phone numbers and the names, and that's fine, I guess. Then we get to Gottlieb's declaration, and as well as Lively's counter 56.1 statement. Exhibit 96 is the excerpt report of Jennifer Freyd, retained by Lively. And everyone should know that this expert, this Jennifer Freyd, who Blake Lively brought in as an expert, is the one who created Darvo. You know Darvo, what Blake Lively likes to use all year. Yeah, she actually created Darvo, and now Blake Lively is using her as an expert. So I guess they have a problem with Exhibit 96. It's the expert report of Jennifer Freyd, retained by Lively to provide testimony about psychology theory. Lively submitted the entire report in opposition to the Wayfarer Party's summary judgment motion, but only specifically cites pages 10 and 16 at paragraph 442 of Lively's counter rule 56.1 statement. The proposition at paragraph 442 does not relate to Sony Pictures Entertainment. The report nonetheless discusses Sony Pictures Entertainment's policy and describes in detail purported conduct of an employee, a Sony employee, taken out of context. Done. Lip gloss drop. It's over. Now you have even Sony calling you out, girl, for lying, misdirecting, taking things out of context. Damn. Wow. It's taken out of context, all of which is completely irrelevant to the underlying motions, as demonstrated by the fact that this material is not cited by Lively in her opposition papers. Ooh. In addition, at page 26 of the Exhibit 96, the expert selectively quotes a sentence of an email from Sony Pictures Entertainment executive to create an inflammatory impression while omitting the subsequent sentence that changes the quote's meaning. But the underlying email the expert is quoting, which reveals the missing context, is not included in the papers, and the executive that wrote the email was not deposed. There was no reason to include this portion or any other portion of Exhibit 96 in Lively's opposition discussed above, beyond the specific portions on which Lively is relying. Paragraph 572 of Lively's counter rule 56.1 statement purports to describe Wayfarer, It Ends With Us movie's conduct, but then includes a gratuitous, unnecessary, and antagonistic reference to a Sony Pictures Entertainment employee and purported employee conduct. Paragraphs 122, 123, 138, and 141 and 144 unnecessarily criticize the same Sony employee in a manner irrelevant to this motion. Exhibit 124 is the expert report of Michael Robbins, Miss Lively's expert on harassment, and Exhibit 17 is a transcript of his deposition. Sony Pictures Entertainment seeks to redact narrowly tailored portions of these two exhibits that unnecessarily criticize the same Sony Pictures Entertainment employee. Sony is not a party to this action and was not responsible for the production of the film. The Sony Pictures Entertainment employee whom the Frey report, Robbins report, and deposition attack, and whom paragraphs 122, 123, 138, blah, 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 of the counter 56.1 statement unnecessarily criticize, is a private person, not a party to this lawsuit. Sony proposed redactions are narrowly tailored to protect the professional and privacy interests of a Sony Pictures Entertainment employee, permitting these statements to become public via purported expert testimony, opening on this employee's supposed obligations where this material is not relevant to Lively's opposition arguments, simply harass an innocent third party. In sum, Sony Pictures Entertainment material has no relevance to the judicial function and implicates the substantial privacy interests of non-parties, as well as Sony Pictures Entertainment's private commercial interests that far exceed any possible public interest in access to them. Courts have long declined to allow public access simply to cater to a morbid craving for that which is sensational. A consideration that is especially acute here, given the immense public scrutiny of this action. Sony Pictures Entertainment has taken care to tailor its sealing request so as not to seek to seal any more than it believes is necessary to protect Sony and its employees. To the extent the court believes any of Sony Pictures Entertainment's proposed redactions should be narrowed, Sony respectfully requests an opportunity to propose such redactions before any material is unsealed. Ah, Blake, now you've gone off and pissed off Sony, girl. This is cuckoo bananas. We have one left. We are getting through WME, y'all. What is going on? They are pissed. This is the last one here, but it does come with a couple of very short exhibits, which we're going to go over. They look like text change. Haven't read this, but this is from WME. Okay, let's see what they have to say. Okay. They respectfully request that this court order the continued sealing and redactions of certain confidential, personal, and non-public information contained in certain exhibits attached to Wayfarer Studios, Justin Baldoni, all of those people, the motion for summary judgment, Blake Lively's opposition to the Wayfarer parties for summary judgment. Both motions attach as exhibit materials that were produced by WME in discovery that were designated as confidential. WME's proposed redactions are available in exhibits to this letter motion. Oh, and we are going to see those, okay? In determining, and then they go over some of the law and some of the standard. They do say that their WME's privacy interests outweigh the public interest in the redacted information. In evaluating non-party private interests, courts consider both the degree to which the subject matter is traditionally considered private rather than public. Here, WME's privacy interests justify the requested redaction of certain private information in internal WME text messages. The proposed redactions are narrowly tailored and seal only sensitive information that has at best minimal. I don't know why that's such a funny word to say right now. Minimal relevance to the court's summary judgment decision. Notably, there is no evidence that WME employees participating in the communications have any personal knowledge of what happened during the filming of It Ends With Us. And in fact, they did not. You know, now that we think about it, they didn't. That's from Greenberg's own testimony or deposition. And Greenberg is actually Justin Baldoni, or was, I'm not sure if they still are, but he was his agent at WME. And I guess he was asked in his deposition, so do you have any personal knowledge whatsoever? And he said, no. Instead, the basis of WME's knowledge in connection with the proposed redactions was statements and information conveyed to WME by measurers Baldoni and Heath without independent verification or investigation by WME. Thus, WME requests to redact statements that merely advance second and third-hand knowledge. Moreover, WME employees and agents and advocates for their clients, and the communications reflect advocacy based on information conveyed to such employees by their clients. As such, the proposed redactions constitute confidential communications made in an advocate capacity based on statements made by measurers. I think he is one of the agents. Baldoni and Heath, which are not based on personal knowledge and therefore offer no independent corroboration. Accordingly, the redactions are inadmissible hearsay and thus ought not to factor into the court's ruling on the summary judgment motion. Do you realize that all of Blake Lively's evidence thus far has been from what other people said or experienced, like Alex Sachs, Isabella Ferrer, and also it's all hearsay so far is what I'm getting, and hearsay is not admissible. Oh my gosh. The statements may, however, gratify private spite or promote public scandal if published without redactions, which is exactly what this circuit warned to avoid. Because the redacted material is largely collateral to the factual and legal issues central to the resolution of the Wayfarer party's motion for summary judgment, the weight of the presumption of public access is low. WME's privacy interests are high as the redacted material is not already public. Specifically, the redacted communications involve Patrick Whitesell, Endeavor's then executive chairman, who has had zero involvement in this litigation. Mr. Whitesell was not deposed, has not submitted a declaration, is not listed on the party's initial disclosures, and is not mentioned in either of the party's pleadings or the party's summary judgment papers. Crazy how Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively yet again are trying to pull the same thing when they're doing this to other people in the case. I mean, it's just so crazy that Ryan Reynolds can be like, I'm a third party. I wasn't even part of this. I wasn't even deposed. Yet you're doing this to non-parties, literally chairmen of WME. Oh my gosh. Okay. Given the minimal relevance of the redacted material and WME's privacy concerns, unsealing these communications will merely further the media-driven nature of this case. Accordingly, WME's privacy and confidentiality interests substantially outweigh any minimal public access consideration. WME thus respectfully requests that the court permanently seal the specific portions of Exhibit 155, 244, Additionally, WME understands that Ms. Lively intends to file a separate motion for the continued sealing of confidential information contained in certain exhibits. Consistent with the privacy and relevancy grounds articulated above, WME joins in Ms. Lively's motion to the extent it seeks to seal confidential communications between WME employees and its clients who are not party to this case. Ryan Reynolds? Specifically, WME joins in Ms. Lively's request to seal exhibits. Okay, and then they want to seal it. So let's see what these little redactions are, WME. Okay. So there are 3 of them, very short. All of them are about 2 pages. So this is the first Exhibit A filed by WME with some redactions. And it looks like, okay, so we have Warren Zavella and Danny Greenberg and Patrick Whitesell. And it looks like we will get can discuss tomorrow. Danny lets you and I discuss tomorrow. That's it. That's the end. Wow. Thank you so much for that, WME. Wow. Amazing. Really appreciate it. You really painted a clear picture. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so we have Exhibit B here, and it looks like another text thread. Again, Danny Greenberg. And you just have Patrick saying, great news, great job navigating. Danny answers, thank you. I wish I had more PW action. That's on me. I'll find it. He says, let's do it. That's the extent of that. Thumbs up, WME. Appreciate it. And then we have the last one, Exhibit C from WME. It looks like a text chain with Justin Baldoni and Danny Greenberg, his agent at the time. This was on Saturday, December 30th of 2023. So this would be right about the time where Blake Lively was asking for her little meeting with just Justin Baldoni. And was pushing for all of her demands. They were actually supposed to go into filming in December. Blake Lively, yet again, for like the 8th time, pushed filming to January. This is what the text said. Of course, lots of redactions, but you see it's with Justin. Danny says, just checking in to see how the week went. Here to talk if you need me for anything. Justin answers, hey man, had a really, really bad week. She had the audacity. Oh, it looks like audacity is in today, Blake Lively. That's your word right now. She had the audacity to email me directly and invite me to a meeting at her house alone if I chose. She refused a body double, which now Sony and Todd have to jump in to make sure that happens because that's just setting me up for a trap, although she's making me have one. She's rejected all of my storyboards for the sex scenes, so he has to get involved because she's trying to keep all of both of our clothes on for the big love scene, which is just ridiculous if you both know the book. The whole thing is just a gigantic clusterfuck, and yet I'm doing my best to stay positive. Although it's been very draining on me and time consuming over this break to be dealing with an actress who is rewriting the writer and the director, I've gone through the whole script. I'm giving her 95% of what she wants for peace, but this is just a brutal experience. Danny Greenberg's answer, we don't get to see. Justin Baldoni wrote, we are all going to her house on Thursday as that's where she has said the meeting needs to take place. She also doesn't want Jamie on set, which we are fighting back on. Danny Greenberg replies and says, good, you should. There has to be a line. I'll talk with Todd about that and warn if I need to. So all these people knew that Blake Lively was batshit crazy. Justin replies, not right now. Feel free to check in with Todd next week. I'm doing my best to just stay positive and give her as many wins as possible to just finish this thing. But it's going to be tough. At some point, Warren needs to know that she's destroying her reputation. So even there, he's more worried about her reputation and her, but yet went and did an untraceable smear campaign. Get the fuck out of here. Where we will need the most help is during the edit because I'm not going to get everything she wants and I foresee that being a big issue. I won't even have time to barely show anybody the movie before I test it. That's what happens when you push the shoot to January. Danny liked those messages, then he replies and we don't see the rest. That's it. Which is absolutely wild. Now, Blake. What do you mean you're going to accuse this man of repeated sexual harassment? They hire a body double for you and you refuse to use it, but you make Justin Baldoni use one? You have lost your mind. You are absolutely crazy. Yet again, ending with another text message from Justin Baldoni being completely beat up, shattered, run over and torn apart by the destruction that Blake Lively is on set. It's absolutely disgusting. WME knew it. Sony knows it. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it, and she still was able to bulldoze her way through and still get the edit. It's absolutely disgusting. I could never, ever, ever imagine what Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath endured. Imagine us a year of just following the case and them having to live it for now. They went into pre-production in the winter of 2022 and we're in January of 2026. They have been dealing with this monster and her sociopath husband, Ryan Reynolds. It's absolutely, oh my gosh, Blake. It's done. Let it go. Let these people free. You have caused enough destruction. You've done it, okay? You wanted your name in the books. You wanted people to never forget about you. You wanted it. You got it, okay? Your name is in the headlines, okay? No one's going to be able to forget it. All right, this is absolutely mayhem. Like I said, that's it for this video. I just wanted to get the key players out there. I will go and see what is on the PR side. We have Stephanie motherfucking Jones, Jed Wallace, and we have the ladies from TAG. So let's see what they have to say. That will be probably in tomorrow's video. I hope y'all are doing good. I mean, there's just a lot going on. I can't wait to just sit down and chat with you and get some videos going in the members section. And yeah, whoa. What do you think about this? Do you think the judge, I think he is going to let Sony definitely stay sealed, WME stay sealed. I have some issues with Blake Lively's, of course. I mean, it was pretty strict what needed to be sealed and unsealed, and I don't know. And Isabella Ferrer, girl, unseal that fucking deposition. What is you doing? Have you lost your mind? Have you, like, I don't know who your manager is. I don't know what Ryan and Blake have promised you or what they're doing now, but like, I'm actually worried about you because you're not making any sense, girl. If you worked in a corporate office and you saw some shit happen between your staff members and HR and the CEO pulled you in to the meeting and was like, tell us what you saw. We saw that you were there on the camera. And you were like, I don't think so. I don't think I want to tell you. What? That's not the way it works, unfortunately. Blake Lively was the one to drag your name. She was the one to bring you in this. She was the one to put young Lily all over her return to protections. She was the one to put young Lily's sex scene in her own complaint. Okay, she was the one. So if you're going to be mad at anyone, you got to start pointing the fingers at those psychopaths, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, because that's why we're here today. Let's not forget about Van Zandt, everyone. The reason why we're here is because Stephanie motherfucking Jones and Blake Lively decided to collude because they were all bitter and scorned women and wanted revenge. Well, guess what? Revenge is dark, it's nasty, and karma is going to get you, and this is just proof. Those lawyers need to be held accountable for Van Zandt. So does Ryan Reynolds, Stephanie motherfucking Jones, and Blake Lively, okay? Because the only reason why we're here today is because they filed a fake lawsuit, those lawyers, with the intention of knowing it was fake. It was bullshit. They filed a fake lawsuit to get a sham subpoena through an inactive shell company to obtain otherwise illegal text messages, and then edited those messages, cherry-picked and cut and clipped whatever they wanted to collude with the New York Times to paint this grand picture of this sexual harassment and untraceable smear campaign that never freaking happened. It's sick. These people are crazy, deranged, power-hungry monsters, and they all need to be stopped and held accountable. Let's not stop talking about Van Zandt. Let's not stop having our boots on these people's necks because they are destroying everybody around them, including and have been every single individual in the Wayfarer party, their wives and their children. Okay, enough is enough. It's over. It's a wrap. Blake, show us your hand. What do you got? Because it seems like nobody, and I mean nobody, except Miss Isabella Ferrer and your little good pal, Michelle Marone. Okay, I wonder why. You know, right. I wonder why. He's a little grifter, okay? He's willing to do anything for the dollar. You could just tell. Or on your side. That's it. Because people know it's gone too far. You filed that New York Times story and you expected Wayfarer to cower away, make a public apology, never work again. You were going to come out as the victor, the champion, the survivor of women, changing policies and workplace forever for women, and yet what you have done is disgusting. And it's a wrap. I'm over it. And I can't even believe what kind of relief finally the Wayfarer parties are going to have once these cases get dismissed and your claims get dismissed because you have nothing, because it didn't happen. We are here because Jamie Heath said you were going to be birthed into a role. Get out of here. Stop it. Enough. But anyway, I miss y'all. I can't wait to keep going with you guys. Thank you so much. I'm a little, fresh hair, fresh lip gloss today and extra sassy, but it is what it is. Sometimes you just get, you just got to call a spade and move on with your day. And that's what we're doing here. We will always continue to fight for justice. And right now, justice for Wayfarer is what we are going to get. I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. Drop your comments. Please let me know what you think is going to happen here. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.